there's no sense of any concern about, but what is reality? And even the better people, like McMaster, are limited in how they look at reality. Because, for example, actually saying we botched the operation in Afghanistan in the first few days because we didn't go all out and crush and devastate the enemy is not something that he can afford to contemplate because of altruism, because of just war theory, because of what is taught at West Point. So he limits himself. He limits, by limiting himself, he limits the scope of reality and the things in reality he can see and he can criticize. He just blinds himself to most of the possibilities. He says we need he's a believer that we should have stayed in Afghanistan because we need to make sure that it doesn't become a base for terrorism against us. And the only way to do that is keep troops there forever, just like we do in Germany and Japan. And he can't conceive of the idea of devastation, of crushing. He talks about Pakistan as being a haven for the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And he can't conceive, or he won't afford to conceive, or he can't say, yeah, we could have taken out Pakistan. Or at least we could have intimidated Pakistan into doing our bidding in destroying the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But those possibilities don't exist in his world. Altruism shrinks your scope of thinking. And then if you're not committed to reason, if you're not committed to reality, if you're not committed to looking at the facts, if you're not going to be objective, then the possibilities shrink. All the options become bad options, staying there for 50 years or leaving immediately, right? False alternatives, one on top of the other. And mainly because these people can't think. It shrinks their scope of thinking, shrinks the possibilities, possible outcomes. Now, right now, for example, altruism, you can see it all over the place. I mean, Afghanistan was such a wonderful place while we were there. And we should have stayed there to make sure Afghanistan stays a wonderful place. Like women can go to school and all that stuff. I mean, that's all good, but how many Americans are supposed to die to make that happen? How many? Barry Weiss. I would love to ask Barry, who's very concerned about the fact that we've given up on nation building. We should have stayed to continue the nation building. How many Americans, how many families of Americans have to suffer for a more peaceful, women-loving Afghanistan? How many American kids have to die because they're not allowed to shoot at the enemy because of just war theory and rules of engagement that tie their hands behind their back, which people like McMaster were responsible for? How many? Watch that movie I recommended, The Outpost, and hopefully that'll outrage you. What we see is that the world around us has no commitment to the facts of reality. No commitment to reason, no commitment to objectivity, no commitment to facts, no commitment to reality.
And to begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize, I know this is difficult, can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
All right. All right.
Now, may I define what my morality is?
All right.
Because this is merely an introduction. My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
May I?
All right, before we go on, reminder, please like the show. We've got 163 live listeners right now, 30 likes. That should be at least 100. I figure at least 100 of you actually like the show. Maybe there are like 60 of the Matthews out there who hate it. But at least the people who are liking it, you know, I want to see a thumbs up. There you go. Start liking it. I want to see that go to 100. All it takes is a click of a thing, whether you're looking at this. And you know, the likes matter. It's not an issue of my ego. It's an issue of the algorithm. The more you like something, the more the algorithm likes it. So, you know, and if you don't like the show, give it a thumbs down. Let's see your actual views being reflected in the likes. But if you like it, don't just sit there. Help get the show promoted. Of course, you should also share. And you can support the show at JeronBrooksShow.com/support, or on Patreon or Subscribestar or Locals, and show your support for the work, for the value hopefully you're receiving from this. And of course, don't forget, if you're not a subscriber, even if you just come here to troll, or even if you're here like Matthew to defend Marx, then you should subscribe, because that way you'll know when to show up. You'll know what shows are on, when they're on. You'll get notified, right? So, yes, like, share, subscribe, support. Like, share, subscribe, support. There you go. Easy. Do one or all of those, please.